it's cold in here and I want to turn the heater on and it'll get too loud to film. So we'll make the filming part of this short and I'll explain real quick. So I modified a few things with the zeolite vacuum kiln, whatever, furnace. And we have insulated the ceiling of the vacuum chamber, and that's helped keep more of the radiant heat inside, which is nice. And what it has done though is made it so that the glass is cold. So it's interesting now to watch the water get boiled out of the zeolite and end up condensing on the glass top. And eventually the glass top will slowly warm up and the condensation will evaporate off of that and nothing more accumulates, leading me to the belief that it has removed all the moisture out of the zeolite. And there's one little test that I watched somebody else do where they take some of the zeolite before regenerating it and they put it into water, and then they take some of the regenerated zeolite and they put it into water beside it, and one bubbles up as if the pores have been opened, which would be needed for the oxygen concentration process, and the old one has less pores open. So I'm hoping that we don't have to do this multiple times, but I don't know. I don't see how regenerating it a few times will be better than once properly. I don't know why after it's released its moisture, it can all of a sudden release more moisture later if you do it again. But it seems that I've read a few articles that tend to make you believe that. So we're going to take a look at a few tests and I'll show you the condensation. We'll give you an idea of what's happening in the vacuum chamber. It's a little bit different than before, but still the same thing. You just get to witness it. So we'll make this pretty short and a little bit of editing because it's cold in here, and we'll just get this done. All right, here we go. I don't think the actual amount matters because well, it's not a scientific test. So here is some of the zeolite pre-recharging. We'll just throw it in there. The stuff is like little ball bearings, man. You get it on the floor and everything skates around. And we'll get one tongue depressor of the post after and see what it does when we put it in water. Alright, and so here we go. Alright, so here you can see we're pulling 26 inches of vacuum, so that's pretty good. We're kicking up to around 700 degrees, so we're getting warmed up. And I will also say the condensation should be forming on the glass in the next little bit. And this catch can, which you saw in the other video, that goes in between the vacuum pump and the vacuum chamber, I've had to drain it. So most of the weight that's coming out of the zeolite is definitely liquid. And it came out of canisters that were, you know, pretty much untouched, so it's not like it had been put in there from sitting around the shop or sitting in a bucket or whatever. Those canisters got opened, the zeolite went into Ziploc bags, and straight from the Ziploc bags into the vacuum chamber. So that moisture was in the zeolite while it was in the oxygen concentrators of old, and the moisture does form on the glass, which you'll see. And eventually, once the glass warms up a bit, it'll get sucked out of there and make its way into the catch can. So it's good to have a catch can between the chamber and the pump. The other thing is oh, I don't know. I'll get back to you. Oh yes, the other thing. So I have been wondering if some of the other people that are regenerating zeolite, they seem to be usually doing it on a much larger scale. The ones I've witnessed on YouTube anyhow, the few that I can find. And they're saying how they have to do it multiple times, or they have to stir it, or they're pulling a vacuum and then they're putting dry air into it. I wonder if they're compensating for the fact that they're doing large batches, and zeolite it's not a very good conductor. I mean, it takes a long time to get all the zeolite up to temperature, and I think that's why you witness, even after you've got the there's some condensation forming already, you start warming up, the condensation keeps coming out, and it keeps coming out for a long time. And zeolite seems to have a really poor thermal conductivity, like the equivalent of insulating brick. It's pretty close to that, which when you look at it, it seems pretty reasonable. It doesn't seem like a very good conductor of heat. So I think if you put it in a large pot and you heat up the pot, it might take 6 or 8 hours or 10 hours to get to the middle of the zeolite and actually get it up to temperature. I mean, it's a natural insulator. And so I think that's what the air blowing through and the stirring and the multiple heatings are trying to accomplish, which I think I'm hoping we are accomplishing by doing it in small batches over a 3-hour period, so the heat can get into all the zeolite, the stuff in the middle, around the edges, and that the vacuum chamber is going to do the work. I don't really see what blowing dry air into your zeolite is going to accomplish more than getting an almost perfect vacuum at temperature. If all the zeolite is at 930 degrees and it's at a perfect vacuum, it shouldn't take that long to pull all the moisture out. But because the glass is colder, you can see, I'll try to be good with the camera here, you can see the condensation forming on the glass. And the glass, also being a poor conductor, is quite cold, where the rest is all insulated. So we'll watch this and see where we go. But you can watch it, I'll zoom in a bit, like it's pulling out that moisture pretty fast and condensing it on the glass, and eventually the glass will warm up and the vacuum pump will pull all that moisture out and it ends up in the catch can. And once all the moisture and condensation is off the glass and you run it for another half hour, I don't know, and I'm hoping that we're not accomplishing much, that we're getting it all done in one heat by doing it in a small batch. So we'll see. We shall see. So the pot is the pot's getting up to 918 degrees. We should be at full temperature pretty quick, but I bet you it's going to take probably an hour, maybe a little longer, for all the zeolite to get up to temperature, and I'm hoping that will accomplish it. But it's amazing to watch all that moisture coming out of it, because when you hold it or touch it, it seems dry as a bone. And this vacuum chamber I've been running every day, so the moisture is not coming out of the vacuum chamber. That vacuum chamber is bone dry from the last heat. And I have tried it once with no zeolite in there and put the glass on it, and there was no condensation. So the condensation is definitely from the zeolite. Alright, is another 15 minutes in, I guess. More and more moisture is condensing on the glass, but you will see that the moisture is starting to not condense in this area because it's starting to warm up a little bit in the center, and it just slowly goes to the outsides, and then eventually it's all evaporated off and ends up in the aluminum catch can. So, and if you listen very, very closely, you can hear how much water has already been caught in the catch can, and now the vacuum is bubbling the steam or the vapor out of the zeolite through the liquid that's already been trapped in the catch can. So it just takes time to evaporate all that out. I'll let it go a little longer, and then you can see what it looks like, and then when it's done, and we're all a little smarter or something. Alright, here's another quick look at the condensation, how it's moving away from the center where the glass is warming up and making its way to the outside. It's pulling a lot of moisture out. And here's a look at the kiln. So she's pretty warm in there, but the glass is still cold to the touch around the outside anyhow. we're about an hour in at full temperature and full vacuum. We have 1,786 grams, so 1.8 kilograms, close enough, right? What's that, 5 pounds of zeolite? And we're looking at about a 9-inch, 23 centimeter diameter piece of glass with a lot of condensation. That's a lot of water coming out of that zeolite after only an hour at temperature. And so I don't think the zeolite in the middle of that can is even up to full temperature yet. And there'll also be the moisture that's condensing in the catch can. So I got a funny feeling, and I'm going to tell you a little thought process here. I just don't see where the multiple heatings make sense unless you're doing it so that you get even heat distribution and all the zeolite gets a chance to get up to temperature. Because if you just think about taking one granule, take a granule of zeolite, right? And you put it in a kiln at 930 degrees for 1 hour, and you take it out, I don't see what you're going to gain by putting that one granule back in and giving it another shot and more time. But I do see it where you've got a bucket of zeolite and you've put it in and the center doesn't get up to temperature and doesn't release its moisture. So bubbling air through it or stirring it or pouring it out and doing it again and again and again is accomplishing that for you. But I think you're getting the same thing by having smaller batches for longer periods of time and just allowing all the zeolite to get up to temperature and have that wonderful opportunity to give up some of its moisture. Now I could be wrong, probably am, but that's how my brain looks at it. I think that makes sense to me. So we're gonna see if this whole thing works, man. I'll come back in about maybe another hour and we'll see how the condensation's doing on the glass. Alright, we're about 2 hours in, maybe 2 hours and a bit in. And the condensation's moved farther out. Still lots of water there though. Vacuum's holding good, temperature's holding good. I'll come out in another hour and see where we're at. It's a little longer and more of the condensation is got. Most of the condensation is gone. The glass is hot to the touch. I'll give it a little longer. Basically, I think once all that condensation is gone, we're done. And here you can see, after 3 or 4 hours, the condensation is completely gone. Everything's up to temperature, and it's time to just let it slowly cool down. Well, 4 a.m. in Canada. It's cold out this morning. Alright, it's morning time, so many hours later. Everything's cooled off. Simple observation here. If you put the zeolite away in Ziploc bags, I was going to put it in vacuum bag it, but if you put it away in Ziploc bags while it's still warm to the touch, I don't mean hot, like I mean like just warm, less than a hot cup of coffee warm, it sucks itself down once it cools down till it's like a vacuum packed container. So it's kind of nice for storage, I guess. Double Ziploc, it's probably good enough. So this is the zeolite before regeneration. I'm just going to pour it into water and we'll see what happens, hey? Well, that was pretty boring. Nothing happened. Here's the zeolite after regeneration. If I can get it without spelling. God, these things are like ball bearings, man. They're all over the place. See it bubbling? So there's water in there, which is what we pretty much figured out. So it did something. I guess that's what I'm saying. Water came out, we saw it condense, it goes in the catch can, which I'll have to drain because there'll be all the water in the catch can. And when you put the old zeolite in the water, it does nothing. If you put new regenerated zeolite in the water, it bubbles up and looks interesting. So, and I put in 1,786 grams in the furnace, and we got 1,586 grams out. So magically, exactly, or within a gram of 100 grams of moisture were removed, or something was removed. 100 grams, mostly moisture, and that's at 12% moisture content thereabouts. So I don't know. I'm happy. I think it's working, and I think we're doing a complete job. I don't think I have to regenerate it 9 times or blow air through it or a million other things that people think you have to do. I think if you do it in small batches, you go up to full heat, I think you can have great success. Now, I gotta go to work. It's like 5 in the morning.